My name is Eric Billington, and I'm a subcontractor. I do residential remodel renovation, as well as some commercial and residential concrete. Blue collar education is for that next generation contractor, that young man that wants to own his own path, own his own business, that enjoys working with their hands, enjoys building, enjoying seeing a finished product that they've created. That individual, this school is for them. I mean, as far as the scope of work and how we do them, I mean, they're to code. The wonderful thing about the school, the industry, is that there is a way to do things to make sure that it's safe and it gives the client the finished product that they're paying for. Many times I call just to make sure, hey, this is a project I'm doing, understanding what's load bearing when you're doing some demo and things of that nature, whether it's going to need the engineer plans and all of that. Having somebody to talk all that through when you're talking about, there's a lot of things that are behind the walls that are underneath the roof. You know what I mean? You got to make sure, once you start tearing into something, what you're going to be dealing with, because it can open up a can of worms if you're not aware of it. Definitely feel that blue collar education is for that next generation contractor, those people that really just love to build. It's really also for that business minded construction individual, even more so because, none of us want to physically work out there for the rest of our lives. So the goal is to build something, bring on a team and be able to manage your process, your company, your clients. And this gives you that training to be able to do that. As you learn that that's not a mistake you can afford. I mean, there's a lot of, the permit process is there for a reason, and their stages of inspections are there for a reason. So the more you're involved with it, the more you feel that even though you want to move faster, you understand that these things have a reason. CJ and Justin helped me on a lot on the permit side. I mean, that general contractor, plumbing and roofing contractors, they have a plethora of knowledge. So as I was going into different counties and getting some of these projects, just helping me understand what required permits, what didn't, and just helping me through those processes. Well, I've been in business since 23. I had a pretty good project that, I did pretty well on. We had a shift, we were doing concrete bollard installations around the country for a company that had a contract with 7-Eleven. So we did a lot of travel with that. So that was a really good project. And then we had a shift when the storms hit. So obviously here, we had those two back-to-back big hurricanes. Immediately we joined the city and started doing some cleanup around. And that, we ran into a couple residents that, were just in a bad way. I had a client that was down in the Anna Marie Island area who managed a lot of vacation homes. Obviously on the barrier islands, all those got hit pretty bad. They needed a lot of demo work done to try to get that stuff out there before mildew spread and all that. So the need just became there, and it was a blessing, if you will. And we went out there and got busy helping the city, got these houses demoed. And obviously once you're tearing up someone's house, you want to help them put it back together. I've had experience from that from my past construction days. So it was an easy transition for me. And it was almost, right at the end of one project, this need, came about. I've done construction. I was 15 years old. I've done construction since I was 15 years old. And various, once I was 18, I was out there helping build some of the apartment complexes that are in the area, from digging the footers, pouring that concrete, to, getting the rebar in there, helping framing, pumping lintel down the walls on 2-story buildings. So I started at a very young age doing some construction, but then I got an opportunity to get into the executive world, which was a lot of help, kind of running a business. So, I give my aunt a lot of credit. She's an executive recruiter. And so I got into that realm. So helping people find work and things of that nature gave me a lot of experience in dealing with corporations and stuff like that. So before the relationship with Blue Collar Education and CJ and Gulf Shore Enterprises, my biggest challenge was that the permit issues, especially with the cities making sure that there wasn't any crooks coming in basically to, promise something that they can do, take these people's money and not get it done. Having them as a team allowed me to go in there with all of the credentials that I needed to be able to do what I needed needed to do to help those people. Well, so, it takes a lot to be a legitimate construction company. So I have all of my general liability, workers' comp, and commercial auto and all of that. But to pull the permits, you got to have that general contractor's license. To do any roofing, you got to have a specific roofing contractor's license. And to do anything on the plumbing side, you got to be specific. Gulf Shore Enterprises, or CJ, happens to have all three. As I'm getting myself starting to find that time to go after my general contractor's license, he allowed me to have those credentials to go in there and do what I needed to do to help the people. I don't know that anybody else is doing that. Quite frankly, CJ has, as long as I've known him, been a man that gives back. And so for him to, not a surprise that he came up with this idea of a way to give back on this grander scale. And when he told me, I was all grins, and definitely wanted to be a part of it and see how it can help shape me as well. The reason why I went with blue collar education is because I don't think anyone else is out there doing this. I don't know anyone else out there doing this. CJ has always been a man that gives back. There was no surprise to me that he came up with the blue collar education as this, grand medium that would allow him to give back to more people. So it was something that I was all smiles about, wanted to be a part of, and just wanted to see exactly how it could help shape me as well. The other component, I guess, if you will, my struggles, is the organization component and keeping track of where your profit and loss is. And quite frankly, you can't run a successful business if you don't know those things. Helping me on that point, giving me some suggestions on some CRMs and things of that nature, letting me know what he's using, how it's helped him, how often he got to really go at it and, garbage in, garbage out type situation. So that was another avenue that they were helpful. That was that aha. I was like, oh yeah, I really do need to tighten up on this. To be honest, man, the next week after we had our big gathering, if you will, with Blue Collar, the networking, so that was priceless. And the next week I was already working with some of the subs that I met there. That right there, yeah, priceless is probably the only word for that. Yeah, that really was helpful immediately. My the job has increased. I had quite a few things on the books, but one of the things I believe I benefited greatly from the course, especially within that networking, is being able to talk about the issues that you have in construction from all facets, from material to clients to billing, receiving, all of those things. When you talk to a bunch of different individuals who are in the same field and they can tell you the issues that they've had and how they've been able to resolve them. Even on the course, they have a lot of recordings of them making phone calls to clients. So that way you can listen to how they deal with something. And it's nothing better than being able to hear that. So, it's one of those things where you don't have to reinvent the wheel because everything is what it is. That's why you're able to have code and all of these plans and things because this is how it's done. Being able to listen to others as they even make sales calls or, like I said, deal with issues or anything, being able to listen to how they deal with them and network back and forth and talk that through has been truly beneficial. Well, it's starting to affect that more now, being that, I've been able to have time to be here to talk with you. You know what I mean? So, like I said, that networking, getting the crew, I've hired on a new foreman who's out there working right now. Being able to shape things in a way that gives me a little bit more freedom, obviously, is going to help me in my personal life as well. I still have some of the stresses on my shoulder that I don't have right now, and that's I'm feeling more organized. I have a better comfort level of the network that I have to pull from when I have different projects and different jobs. And, maybe two of them are going at the same time and you can't be at two places at one time. My in-house employees may have to be on one site, but I know I have a plethora now of really reliable, honest, good subs to pull from to help me, keep my clients' work flowing. I'm excited for it. Let me say that. I try to stay humble in my excitement, but I do feel like a lot of good things. I feel at the end of 2026, I think 2026 is going to be an absolute great year for me. And that's what I feel. The calls, the jobs, a lot of the people that were in there have called me to give me work. So, the amount of jobs that I'm getting and calls and things of that nature are increasing. Things that I've learned in the class is definitely helping me close some of those jobs. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be able to send out a proposal, an estimate. It's another thing to get that approval. You know what I mean? To where you can put that job on the calendar. calendar. I think CJ's up like 6 in the morning. I'm pretty sure I've called him around 6:30 and he's answering the phone. So I don't, if he doesn't answer, I get a call back pretty darn quick. If you're thinking about going into the construction field and you don't exactly know how to approach it, but you love working with your hands, maybe you did this with your dad or your grandfather, and quite honestly, there's a lot of work out there. This is what you're looking to do, but you just got to figure out how to do it in a way that you can truly be successful. Then you should go ahead and join this class, the school, because they do have all the tools, all the lessons. They've done it. I've known CJ since he was only a roofing contractor. In fact, I did roofing sales for him when he was a roofing contractor. To think that in the short time that he did, he also became the general contractor and the plumbing contractor, it's huge. So he has started from the bottom and worked his way to where he's at. So, I mean, he can tell you all the steps, he definitely didn't, he wasn't handed anything, he grinded for it all. I was about to bid a project. It was a full bathroom remodel, but that also required the exterior wall to be removed. The window sill had been leaking since the beginning of time. So the studs inside this wall were so deteriorated that it was amazing that the wall just hadn't fell out of itself. It had a little more, and it was on the third level. So it had a little more teeth. So I called CJ and just kind of worked through, and he was able to help me put a good number to that one. It was about a $40,000 contract. I absolutely feel like without that guidance, I would have underbid that job. Profit margin on that was somewhere in the area of 35 to 40%. I'd say one of the benefits within the course are their weekly meetings. They'll pick a topic one week. You'll be able to pick a topic for the next week, but they're always very important topics because they're things that you're dealing with on a daily basis within this industry. So example, we've had conversations on, making those calls, how many calls you should make, how you follow up, and just understanding that the kind of numbers of the calling versus getting projects, you know what I mean? That was one of the topics. Having this network within the blue collar education has truly been beneficial. Being a small business, it's hard to really staff up really as much as you need to handle all of the different components of this, from the sales, the administration, the bookkeeping, and then going out and doing the work. And part of that administration component is that permitting, which is heavy. I don't know where I would be right now if I didn't have them partner with me. It almost feel like a partnership, the way that they support you and making sure that you're able to do the things that you need to do to be successful. Not having them on my side on that permit process definitely would have, I wouldn't be able to take as many jobs as I'm able to take, because a part of my time would be spent trying to figure those things out, deal with the city on a daily basis, all the different permit issues, the different things that they need, pictures, whatever it may be, diagrams, layout. Having them, they allow us to use their administration to do some of those things. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to take as many jobs as I'm able to take, and obviously, therefore, not making the revenue that I can make. So it's because you have so many different scopes of work within remodeling, and one may require a layout, one may require engineered plan. You need to know the difference. And if you get into the permit process thinking it needs a layout and it needs engineered plan, if you didn't plan for that, it's about to cost you some money. You're about to lose some of your profit margin, because I know those engineered plans are going to cost you. And if you didn't have that cost factor in your bid, you're about to lose. It's really important to know what they're going to need, so that way you can make sure that you have whatever cost it's going to require to get that inside of your bid up front. It's hard to go back and ask for something like that, and as a contractor, it's something you're supposed to know. They try to be helpful. They do. But, you have the people that are taking in the documents, and then you have the people that are reviewing the documents, and those are not the same people. There can be a gap there. So the ability to stay on them is important. I just had a permit issue where I went down there and dropped off paperwork in person, and somehow they got lost. And I thought I was doing hey, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to hand them to you. Here's my layout, all my drawings on there. I'm all excited about it. And I called up a couple of days later. I'm like, hey, just checking in. They're like, we don't have that uploaded. But she was able to track that. She was like, yeah, you were here on this day, and I see who you were talking to now because y'all shared an email, and it's important. It's everything. You know what I mean? Being able to stay on that process and keep that as tight as possible. And if you don't have the staff to do it, having a blue collar education, a CJ, and a Gulf Shore Enterprises that allow you to use their administration to help you through that process is, once again, priceless.